The sky over Tanis 4 burned red as Captain Elias Vance crash-landed his fighter. Alarms screamed inside the cockpit while sparks flew from the broken control panel. Smoke filled the cabin, but Elias stayed calm. He was a human pilot of the Interstellar Alliance trained to survive the worst. His mission had been simple: patrol the outer sectors near Nyari space, keep the peace, and report any signs of trouble. But things had gone wrong fast. Unknown ships had attacked without warning. Elias's squadron had scattered. He had barely made it to the moon's surface. Elias opened the hatch and stepped into the alien jungle. Giant trees reached into the sky, their purple leaves glowing faintly in the dark. Strange animal cries echoed in the air. The air was thick and humid. His boots sank slightly into moss-covered ground. He checked his wrist scanner. No signals. His comms were dead. He was alone, or so he thought. After an hour of walking, Elias heard it, the sharp crack of energy weapons, followed by the sound of running footsteps. He dropped low behind a fallen log and scanned the trees. In the distance, he saw movement, a cloaked figure running through the underbrush, chased by 3 armored soldiers. Elias's instincts kicked in. He didn't know who the cloaked figure was, but they were clearly in danger. And the soldiers chasing them, wearing black armor and glowing red visors, didn't look like friendly locals. He crept closer, pulling his sidearm from his belt. The figure tripped and fell beside a large crystal-covered tree. The soldiers raised their weapons. Without hesitation, Elias jumped from cover and fired. His shot struck one soldier's rifle, blasting it from his hands. The second turned, surprised, but Elias was faster. He dodged a pulse shot and rolled behind a tree. The third soldier tried to circle him, but Elias threw a flash beacon. The forest lit up like daylight. The soldiers shouted in confusion. By the time the light faded, Elias had taken them all down with clean, careful shots, not fatal, but disabling. He walked toward the cloaked figure, who was still on the ground. "It's okay," Elias said, lowering his weapon. "I'm not your enemy." The figure slowly pulled back the hood. Underneath was a young woman with silver-blue skin, violet eyes, and a small glowing crystal on her forehead. She looked at Elias with a mix of fear and surprise. You're human," she said softly. "I am," Elias replied. "Captain Elias Vance, Interstellar Alliance. Are you hurt?" No," she said, sitting up with some effort. "You saved me." "Who were they?" he asked, helping her to her feet. "Bounty hunters, sent by my own people," she said quietly. "Why would your own people do that?" She looked down, the glow of the crystal on her forehead dimming slightly. "Because I ran away." Elias raised an eyebrow. "From what?" She looked up at him, her expression both proud and sad. "From a life I didn't choose." As they walked deeper into the jungle, she explained more. Her name was Kailira, and she was no ordinary traveler. She was the princess of the Nyari Dominion, a powerful alien empire known for their ancient traditions and psychic abilities. Her people believed in a sacred ritual called bonding, where 2 minds became one, sharing thoughts, emotions, and even dreams. "I was chosen to bond with the heir of House Varun," she said. "It was meant to unite our factions, a political move." "But you didn't want that?" Elias asked. "No," she said. "Bonding is permanent. It should be built on choice, on trust, not politics." Elias nodded. He could understand that. Humans didn't have anything quite like Nyari bonding, but the idea of being forced into something so personal, it didn't sit right. "So you ran," he said. "I stole a shuttle and fled," Kailira replied. "But they followed me here. I didn't think anyone would find me on Tanis 4. "You're lucky I was passing by," Elias said with a grin. Kailira smiled faintly. "Very lucky." They found shelter in a small cave behind a waterfall. The walls shimmered with natural crystals that hummed softly when touched. It felt peaceful, almost like the cave itself was alive. Elias set up a small camp using survival gear from his belt pack. He offered Kalira some rations. She hesitated but took them politely. As they ate, Elias noticed how quiet she was. Not afraid, just thoughtful. "You don't talk much," he said. "Nyari speak often through feeling, not words," she replied. "But I want to learn. I want to understand humans. You act without thought of gain. You saved me without knowing who I was." Elias shrugged. "That's what we do, or at least what we try to do." She looked at him with a curious expression. "You are different from what I was taught." He laughed lightly. "Let me guess, humans are loud, wild, and unpredictable?" She nodded. "And dangerous, but I don't feel danger from you." The firelight danced across the cave walls. Outside, the jungle pulsed with quiet life. "Kalira," Elias said after a while, "if your people catch you again, what will they do?" "They'll force the bond, and I'll lose myself. Then we can't let that happen." She looked at him, her eyes soft and glowing in the dark. "Why would you help me?" she whispered. "Because no one should be forced to give up who they are. And because I think your people are wrong about us." That night Kalira dreamed of open stars and distant music. In her dream, Elias stood beside her, not as a protector, but as something closer. When she woke, the words came without thinking. A whisper, soft and filled with wonder. "Would you like to bond with me, human?" Elias, who had just finished checking the scanner, turned in surprise. "What did you say?" Kalira looked uncertain now, as if realizing what she had done. Her cheeks darkened slightly in color. A Nyari sign of nervousness. I don't mean to pressure you. I only meant, if we were bonded, they could not force me to another. The bond would protect me, and I trust you, more than I've trusted anyone." Elias didn't know what to say. He had just come here on a patrol mission. Now an alien princess was offering something deeper than an alliance, something close to soul connection. And yet, part of him wasn't afraid. Part of him wondered what it would mean, not just for Kalira, but for all of humanity. He didn't answer right away, but he didn't say no either. Captain Elias Vance sat near the soft glow of the cave's crystal walls. The jungle outside had quieted, but his thoughts were loud. Princess Kalira's question still echoed in his mind. "Would you like to bond with me, human?" She hadn't repeated it since last night. Maybe she was waiting. Maybe she regretted saying it. Elias wasn't sure. He glanced at her now. Kalira sat by the cave entrance, legs folded, eyes closed, her hands resting on her knees. She was meditating, or maybe communicating with the crystals. Nyari often used their surroundings to focus, their thoughts. He didn't want to interrupt. Still, the air between them felt different now. He had come to Tanis 4 by accident, but nothing about this situation felt random. Kalira had offered more than a simple alliance. Bonding was sacred, to her people, permanent, deep. It was a link of mind and heart, and she had offered it. To a human, Elias was many things, a soldier, a survivor, a protector. But was he ready to be something more? Later that day, they continued through the forest. Kalira had found a safe path toward a hidden relay station, a communication tower, built years ago by explorers and forgotten after war reached the system. "If we reach the tower," she said, "we can send a signal to your people. They can come for you." Elias glanced at her. "For us," he corrected. She gave a small smile. "Yes, for us." They moved carefully. The forest was thick and filled with strange life forms. Large insect-like creatures buzzed through the air. Soft lights moved under the moss. At one point, a giant shadow passed overhead, some flying beast with wings wide as a ship. But it didn't bother them. As they walked, Elias noticed Kalira sometimes pause to touch certain trees or crystals. Her eyes would close for a moment, as if listening to voices only she could hear. "Are you talking to someone?" he asked once. "Not someone," she said gently. "The crystals." They hold memories, energy, emotion. I can feel what was once here. Elias found that strange, but also beautiful. The Nyari were very different from humans, but maybe not so different deep down. They just listened to the world in ways humans had forgotten. They stopped at a quiet pool by midday. Kalira dipped her hands in the water and Elias refilled his canteen. The air was cool and calm. "You never answered," she said softly without looking up. He turned. "About bonding?" She nodded. Elias sat beside her. "It's not that I don't trust you. I do. More than I expected. But bonding, this isn't just a friendship. This is forever, isn't it?" Kalira looked at him, her violet eyes glowing faintly. "Yes. Once our minds are joined, they remain connected. You will feel what I feel. See flashes of my memories, and I will feel yours." "That's a lot," he said. "Humans aren't used to sharing that much, not even with the people we love." "I know," she said. "I do not ask it lightly." Elias looked at the sky through the leaves. "Do your people really hate humans?" he asked. "Not all," she said, "but many fear what they do not understand. They think humans are wild, too quick to act, too hungry to expand." "And what do you think?" "I think," she said carefully, "that you have something my people have forgotten. The will to choose, to fight for freedom, to care without being told. You saved me, Elias. Not because of duty, but because you felt it was right. That means something." Elias didn't reply right away. He just looked at her, and for the first time, truly saw her. Not just as an alien princess, but as someone strong and lost and brave. "I don't know what the future looks like," he said. "But if bonding with you means protecting your right to choose, and maybe showing both our people a better way, then maybe I'm ready." Kalira's eyes softened. "You would do it?" He nodded. "I would. But let's survive first." The relay tower stood high above the jungle, its rusted metal covered in vines. From a distance it looked abandoned, but it still had power. As they approached, Elias scanned the area. "Something's not right," he whispered. Kalira felt it too. The air was too still. No bird calls, no wind. Then they saw them. Two Nyari bounty hunters, cloaked in dark armor, waited at the tower's base. One held a scanner. The other carried a capture net. Both were armed. "They're waiting. For me," Kalira said, voice low. Elias gritted his teeth. "You stay back, I'll handle it." Before she could protest, Elias stepped out into the clearing, hands raised. The bounty hunters turned quickly. "Identify yourself," one said. "Captain Elias Vance," he said. "Human. Just here to send a message." The second hunter sneered. "You're protecting the traitor, aren't you?" Elias didn't flinch. "She's not a traitor. She's your future." Without warning, the first hunter fired. Elias dove to the side, drawing his sidearm and returning fire. The blast missed by inches, but it distracted the hunters long enough for Kalira to act. She stepped into the clearing, crystal glowing bright. "Enough," she called. The hunters paused, recognizing her voice. "You will not take me," she said firmly. "I choose my path." "You dishonor the Dominion," one growled. "I bring hope to it," she replied. "If you wish to stop me, you will have to face what I have become." Elias stood beside her now. "And you'll have to go through me." The standoff didn't last long. The hunters realized they were outmatched, not in weapons, but in will. Kalira stood with strength and calm. Elias stood with fire. Together they were something new. The hunters fled. Inside the relay tower, Elias powered the console. It flickered to life. He sent a signal to the nearest Alliance ship. "They'll come in 20 hours, he said. Kalira nodded. She looked, tired but relieved. As the sun began to set, they sat on the tower's balcony, watching the jungle glow with soft light. Kalira turned to Elias. "Are you still ready?" He didn't hesitate this time. "Yes." She took his hand gently. Her crystal pulsed with warm light. His heart beat faster. "Close your eyes," she whispered. He did. Suddenly he felt warmth, not on his skin, but deep in his chest. Images flashed behind his eyes. A young Kalira learning to speak, running through crystal gardens, standing before a council with fear in her heart. He felt her dreams, her loneliness, her strength, and she saw him too. The battles he had fought. The people he had lost, his courage, his doubts, his quiet hope. Tears ran down both their cheeks, then silence. They opened their eyes. Something invisible now connected them, a soft thread between minds. They felt each other, even without words. "It's done," Kalira said softly. Elias smiled. "We're bonded." Outside, the stars above Tanis IV shone brighter than ever. Somewhere, warships moved, politics shifted. Old minds prepared to fight for control. But inside the tower, a human and an alien princess had done something no one expected. They had chosen each other. The stars above Tanis IV shimmered quietly as Elias Vance stood beside Kalira on the relay tower's balcony. The bonding was complete. Though the world around them had not changed, something inside them had. Elias felt it first, a quiet warmth in his chest like a second heartbeat. When he looked at Kalira, he didn't just see her. He felt her. Her calm thoughts, her steady breath, her quiet fear about the future, and her growing trust in him. Kalira also felt Elias's presence, inside her, strong, steady, and very human. His memories brushed against hers gently. The discipline of a soldier, the grief of lost friends, and the fire of someone who never gave up. For a moment, the universe seemed still. Then the console behind them blinked. Incoming transmission from Alliance Command. Elias quickly moved to the panel and opened the channel. A hologram of Admiral Naira appeared, sharp-eyed, silver-haired, and not easily surprised. "Captain Vance," she said, "we received your signal. What's your status?" "Alive. But there's more," Elias said. "I have someone with me, someone important." Kalira stepped into view. Naira's eyes widened. "Is that?" "Princess Kalira of the Nyari, Dominion," Elias confirmed. "She's here of her own will, and we're bonded." There was a long pause. "You what?" the Admiral asked, stunned. "We bonded. Mind to mind. Soul to soul," Kalira said calmly. "It was my choice." "Admiral." Naira did not speak for several seconds. Then her voice turned sharp. "Captain, do you realize what this means? You've just created the first human Nyari bond in history. You're talking about a psychic link between two species that have been close to war for years." "I know," Elias said. "But maybe this is how we stop that war." The Admiral looked at Kalira. "Princess, your people, won't they see this as betrayal?" Kalira nodded. "Some will, but others may see it as a new path." Naira sighed. "Understood. A recovery team is on its way. Expect arrival within 12 hours. Until then, stay put, and stay safe." The hologram faded. As night fell, Kalira and Elias stayed close to the fire inside the tower. The jungle outside hummed with soft sounds. "I could feel her surprise," Kalira said. "She's not the only one," Elias replied. Kalira looked into the flames. "When we return, my father will not accept this easily. He believes humans are reckless. He'll think you tricked me. Then we'll show him it was your choice," Elias said firmly. "Our choice." But deep down, Elias knew it wouldn't be so easy. The Nyari sovereign was powerful and proud, and humans bonding with one of their royal blood, that would shake their entire political system. Still, he didn't regret it. Neither did she. 12 hours later, the Alliance ship Starlight Horizon arrived in orbit. A dropship came down and picked them up. Elias and Kalira were taken aboard quietly. No loud welcomes, no reporters, just a silent crew full of questions. In a private room, Admiral Naira met with them in person. "We're escorting you both to the Nyari capital," she said. "Their High Council has requested a meeting." Elias frowned. Requested? Naira sighed. That's a polite word, they demanded it. There's panic in the Dominion. Your bond is being called everything from dangerous to divine. Kalira nodded. They will want to judge us, but we must not hide. Elias looked at the Admiral. Will the Alliance support us? We don't have a choice, Naira replied. You've already changed everything. Now we have to protect that change. The Nyari capital was a breathtaking place, a floating city of crystal towers, surrounded by fields of glowing plants and silver rivers. From above, it looked like a dream. But inside the palace, tension hung heavy in the air. Guards in elegant armor led Elias and Kalira into the great hall. Hundreds of Nyari sat in high seats, leaders, scholars, priests. At the center sat Sovereign Talanos, Kalira's father. His face was calm, but his eyes held steel. Kalira, he said slowly. My daughter, what have you done? Kalira stood tall. I have chosen. I bonded with Elias Vance, a human. Not out of rebellion, but hope. You broke tradition, Talanos said. You ran from your duty. I chose a new duty, one that speaks to peace, not politics. The hall murmured. Elias stepped forward. I didn't force this. She chose it. And so did I. The Sovereign's gaze turned to him. Do you understand what your presence means, human? You are a flame in dry forest, a spark that could burn our world. Elias held his ground. Or light it up. Suddenly a new voice echoed from the side of the hall. She must be punished. She's broken sacred law. It was Lord Varys, leader of House Faroon, the same house Kalira had rejected in her arranged bonding. She threw away our bond. Now she brings a human into our sacred customs, he roared. This is not a union, it's corruption. Others nodded. Some whispered in support. Others looked confused. Then Kalira stepped into the center of the room and held out her hand. Her crystal glowed brightly. Let them see what we have done, she said, not in fear but in truth. She touched the central crystal pillar that linked to the hall's mind space. At once the chamber filled with shared vision, a projection of memory. They saw Kalira's escape, her fear, her meeting with Elias, his kindness, his bravery, his choice. Then the bonding. Everyone in the room felt it, a union not built on orders but on respect and understanding. When the vision ended, the hall was silent. Sovereign Talanos stood slowly. This bond, it was not political, he said. It was real. Kalira nodded. Yes, Father. I would not be here if it wasn't. Lord Varys shouted again. You cannot allow this. What's next? Bonding with machines? With animals? But the Sovereign raised a hand. No more fear, he said. Today I see something I never thought possible, a bond between our kind and theirs, not of war or power, but of heart. Elias and Kalira were taken to a quiet chamber afterward. Guards stayed outside, but no chains, no threats. You think they'll accept it? Elias asked. Kalira took his hand. Some already do. The rest will follow. Or fade. He smiled. You really are a rebel. She tilted her head. You make me brave. Far above, in orbit, both Nyari and human ships watched carefully. News of the bonding spread across both civilizations. Some people were afraid. Others were inspired. In the hidden rooms, some leaders whispered of danger. In schools, children whispered of hope. A choice had been made, and it was shaking the stars. The days after the Great Hall meeting were a whirlwind. Elias Vance and Princess Kalira found themselves at the center of a storm that neither had fully expected. What had started as a quiet rescue on a distant moon now challenged centuries of history between humans and the Nyari. Kalira's bond with Elias had become a symbol. Some called it a miracle, others a betrayal. Elias stood in a bright chamber high in the Nyari palace. He could feel the steady pulse of Kalira's thoughts like a calm river beside him. Their minds were connected in a way humans never experienced before. He could hear her emotions gently, sense her heartbeats. even glimpse faint images of her, memories. The bond was deep, real, and strange. Kalira sat nearby, surrounded by advisors and scholars from both species. They studied the bond, trying to understand it. Some Nyari elders whispered warnings, their faces tight with fear. "Do you regret it?" Kalira asked Elias quietly. He shook his head. "No. It feels like I'm part of something bigger now, like our minds are working together, not apart." She smiled softly. That is the power of bonding. Outside the palace, the city glittered with light. But beneath the beauty, tension simmered. Many Nyari viewed the bond as a challenge to their traditions. Houses loyal to the sovereign were divided. Some accepted Kalira's choice. Others saw it as an attack on their way of life. On the human side, news channels and politicians debated fiercely. Some celebrated the union as proof that humans could reach beyond the stars and find peace with the unknown. Others feared it meant losing humanity's independence. One afternoon, Kalira and Elias met with the High Council, a group of Nyari elders who held great influence. The council was stern and cautious. Its leader, Elder Yaren, spoke first. "Princess Kalira, Captain Elias," he said, "your bond has caused shockwaves across our world. Some see it as dangerous, others as hopeful. We must learn what this means for both species." Kalira nodded. "We understand," Elias added. "This bond connects us deeply, but it also gives us a chance to stop old fears and find common ground." Elder Yaren studied them carefully. "Show us." Kalira reached out and touched Elias's arm. A soft light spread from her crystal, weaving between them. For the council, it was as if their thoughts became one. They saw Kalira's memories of childhood, her fears of losing freedom, her hope for peace. Then Elias's memories, his struggles as a soldier, his loss of friends, his belief in a better future. The elders gasped. One by one, they nodded. This is powerful. But not everyone was convinced. In the palace halls, Lord Varys plotted with other leaders who opposed the bond. He was furious that Kalira had rejected House Varun and chosen a human instead. "We cannot allow this to stand," Varys hissed. "If the sovereign weakens, so does the Dominion. We must act before it's too late." His words spread to secret groups who still believed humans were a threat. Plans were made in shadows. Meanwhile, Elias and Kalira worked to build understanding. They visited neighborhoods where humans and Nyari lived side by side. They spoke at schools, sharing stories of their bond and hopes for peace. Children listened with wide eyes. "Can humans and Nyari really be friends?" one asked. Kalira smiled. "More than friends, we are family now." But the war drums did not stop. On a dark night, the palace alarms rang out. Scouts reported a fleet of ships approaching, Nyari warships loyal to Lord Varys. They refused to accept Kalira's choice and had come to demand her surrender. Elias and Kalira stood on the palace balcony watching the ships fill the sky. "This is it," Kalira said softly. "Our bond will be tested." Elias clenched his fists. "We fight, not just for us, but for everyone who believes in peace." The next day, the council called an emergency meeting. The warships threatened to attack if Kalira was not handed. Over-sovereign Talanos addressed the assembly. "We must choose, surrender our daughter to save the Dominion, or stand with her and face war." The room was silent. Kalira stepped forward. "I am not a prize to give. I choose peace. I choose Elias. And together, we face whatever comes," the council murmured. Some supported her, others looked away. As negotiations failed, warships prepared to strike. But then something unexpected happened. Elias and Kalira reached out across both worlds, using their bond to send a message not of threats but of hope. They shared visions of what unity could look like. Joint spaceships exploring the stars, children playing together, elders learning from one another. The message touched many hearts. Some warships held their fire. Others turned away. And slowly, the war that seemed certain began to fade. In the days that followed, new alliances formed. The High Council agreed to open talks with the humans. Lord Varys was removed from power, replaced by leaders willing to listen. Elias and Kaelyra became symbols of a new age, one where differences were not weapons, but strengths. In a quiet moment, Elias looked at Kaelyra. "We changed the stars." Kaelyra squeezed his hand. "Together." The sun rose over the Nyari capital like a new promise. After weeks of tension, meetings, and quiet hope, something had changed. The air felt lighter. The city shimmered brighter. Captain Elias Vance stood beside Princess Kaelyra on a balcony overlooking the glowing gardens below. The bond between them had not only survived but had grown stronger, linking their hearts and minds like never before. Kaelyra smiled, her violet eyes reflecting the morning light. "We have come far, Elias. But the future still holds many challenges." Elias nodded. "I know. But we've already changed more than anyone thought possible." Inside the Great Hall, preparations were underway for a historic ceremony. The sovereign Talanos, Kaelyra's father, had agreed to officially recognize the bond, not as a rebellion but as a new path forward for the Nyari and humans alike. This ceremony would be the first public acceptance of a human-Nyari bond in history. As the guests arrived, representatives from both species filled the hall. Dignitaries, scholars, soldiers, and citizens curious to witness this new chapter. Kaelyra wore a simple gown woven from shimmering threads that glowed faintly, a symbol of the unity between her people and the humans. Elias stood tall in his uniform, proud and calm. The sovereign entered last, his face showing a mixture of pride and caution. "My daughter," he said, voice strong, "you have walked a path that many feared. You have forged a bond that is not just a tradition but a choice. Today we honor that choice." He turned to Elias. "Human, you have entered our world with courage and respect. You carry the hopes of two species." Elias bowed his head. "I will do all I can to live up to that trust." The ceremony began with a ritual unlike any before. The ancient Nyari crystals around the hall began to glow, responding to the bond between Kaelyra and Elias. Light pulsed softly as their minds connected for all to witness. Visions of their journey played out in the minds of those present. The crash on Tannisifur, the escape, the bonding under the stars, the challenges faced in the palace, and the hope born from their unity. Many gasped. Some wiped tears away. Others smiled, feeling the power of what had been created. After the ritual, the sovereign spoke again. "This bond is a promise of peace, of respect, and of a future where differences are strength. It is not the end of our story, but the beginning." Applause filled the hall. The old divisions softened and new friendships began. Later, in a quiet garden, Kaelyra and Elias sat beneath a tree with glowing leaves. They were alone, but their minds were still linked, sharing thoughts and feelings without words. "I never imagined this," Kaelyra said softly, "to find someone who understands me so completely." Elias smiled. "Neither did I. But now, I feel like I belong. To you, to your people, to something bigger than myself." She reached for his hand. "We have changed history. And we will keep changing it," he said. Together. Months passed, and their bond grew stronger. Elias was given the title of Ambassador Guardian, a new role created to bridge humans and Nyari. He traveled between worlds, helping to build trust and cooperation. Kaelyra worked with the High Council to reform old laws, making room for choice and freedom in the Dominion. Together, they led expeditions into new star systems, exploring strange worlds hand in hand with both human and Nyari crews. One evening, as they looked out at the stars from the palace balcony, Elias spoke. "Do you think the others will ever understand what bonding really means?" Kaelyra nodded. "Some will take time, but love and trust are the strongest teachers." Elias laughed quietly. "Then we better be good teachers." In the vastness of space, far beyond politics and wars, a new bond had been formed. One not just of minds, but of hearts. Humanity had proven that even in the unknown, courage, choice, and respect could light the way. The stars no longer felt so distant,